we are establishing the Land and Water Forum to help set the direction of water reform. The forum is a collaborative approach involving major water users in agriculture, industry and power generation, as well as environmental and recreational groups. And that's why we are looking at water in the government's plan for infrastructure development. I've already indicated that if the numbers stack up and if farmers are on board, I can see a role for the government in assisting with large-scale water storage infrastructure, at least in Canterbury. A similar approach may be possible in other parts of the country. These are just some of the many areas where the government is taking significant steps to help farmers and our agriculture industry make the most of our opportunities. But as our people who work the land in all conditions and in all hours through droughts and floods and snowstorms, far from the world's politicians and bureaucrats, you know better than anyone that there is only so much that the government can do. We do not and never will have all of the answers. When it comes to on-farm innovation, when it comes to protecting our environment, when it comes to using our water resources as sensibly as we can, by far the greatest responsibility falls on you. And so as you wrap up your conference today and head back to your farms, your families and your communities, I want to leave you with one final thought. The high quality agricultural products you produce are one of New Zealand's great competitive advantages. The national-led government wants to work with you to make the most of the opportunity that this competitive advantage presents for New Zealand's future. If we succeed, we have much to gain. Agriculture will continue to play a critical role in lifting New Zealand's productivity, the value of our exports, and the growth of our economy. To achieve these goals, the government is taking many actions from regulatory reform through to boosting infrastructure. We've launched the Primary Growth Partnership. We're tackling climate change by improving the emissions trading scheme and setting an emissions target for 2020 and establishing an ambitious centre for agricultural greenhouse emissions. And we've started on a path to reforming the management of our freshwater resources for the benefit of farmers and all New Zealanders. But at the end of the day, we know that the future of New Zealand agriculture is not up to us. In so many ways, that future is in your hands. And that future will only be as bright, as innovative, as clean and green, and as prosperous as each and every one of you wants it to be. So thank you for the opportunity to be at your conference. Can I wish you the very best, and can I finally say to you that I know that the economic conditions on the farm are tough. I know that there are a lot of farmers who are looking at a payout at the moment, wishing it would rise, looking at the rising value of the New Zealand dollar at the moment with a bit of consternation and some concern about international commodity prices. But I think by any definition and by any measurement, if you look at the future opportunities for New Zealand when it comes to agriculture, the changing patterns of wealth and demand around the world, and the advantages that New Zealand has, that if we truly understand how huge our opportunity is, if we make sure farmers get a fair go, and we position our rules and regulation in a way that is sensible and fair, then my view is that New Zealand will become a wealthier country, a more successful country, and that you will be leading that charge. Thank you very much.
Prime Minister, the people in this room are very fair people. They're
sort of, how would I say, I would imagine that they're pretty concerned about, particularly about the ETS, and we recognise the fact that you've gone to great lengths to examine that. But the thing that was left out was the science, and whether we whether it's anthropogenic global warming is caused by, well, obviously by humans, then it's a debatable thing. But one of the problems is that there hasn't actually been a debate. There's been no robust debate about it. I'm saying I'm not really going to ask a question, but I've got a booklet here for you that is from the opposition to the IPCC. There's more PhDs in this than you can shake a stick at. And they're telling us that it's nature that causes it, not man. Now there's heat islands, that's a different thing. But in generally, I'd just like to give you this book, and And please don't just throw it in the garbage thinking it's a flaky thing, because in fact it's a précis of 858 pages. So if I could give that to you, Prime Minister, thank you. And please, can you please read it?
Thank you. It's Sunday afternoon, I'll do my best. Look, if I just respond one way, and that is to say, you're right, there is a debate amongst some people about whether climate change is actually occurring or not, and there's a huge amount of scientific evidence probably on both sides, and people can point to that. My view is that human-induced climate change is occurring. But I think that the point here is that it's a long-term problem. So when people put in place policies that might cause a very short-term sort of demise of your economy, I think that we're getting that wrong, because we're trying to deal with a long-term problem. But the bigger issue here is, if New Zealand was to not play its part, let's just take that argument for a moment. We withdraw from Kyoto, we don't do anything to try and reduce our emissions, we play no part in the climate change debate. One question or a challenge I guess that I'd put to you is, would we be helping you or hurting you? Because I personally think we run the risk of hurting you in a major way. I think that you could see an international backlash against New Zealand. I think it would have an impact on our trade and have a substantial impact on the way New Zealand is viewed. So in my view, you're seeing a worldwide trend towards countries being involved, but I think it's also important that we don't say to New Zealand farmers, we expect you to undertake a radical reform of your emissions profile that no other country is. And how can we expect farmers, and you're right, when you first comment, farmers are fair people. And actually, the history of New Zealand farming is they respond to incentives. When they see the right principle, when they can understand that opportunity to change, they do. And you see that right across the country with sensible environmental policies. So my only point is, I just don't think we can expect farmers to cut their emissions profile if there's no realistic answer or way of doing that. And so the challenge on the government and the industry is to find some ways to do that, whether it's nitrate inhibitors or the others. Now, I think we can achieve that in a time frame that's realistic. But I think you also got to go and look out there. There are people that are running around at the moment wanting New Zealand to sign a 40% reduction in its 2020 target, right? Has anyone actually gone away and backed out what those numbers look like? That is a massive reduction. It's essentially no emissions coming from any sector other than agriculture, zero from everything else, or put another way, zero from agriculture, none from anything else. So zero from agriculture and the rest that's occurring, plus some. It would be an amazing and incredible move. So we've got to be realistic, and you go and have a look at what Australia's got as its 2020 target. It's unless the world does something pretty dramatic, it's about a 4% reduction. So let's get a bit of perspective in the debate. That's my argument.
Thank you, Lachlan. Before the lights go out with that last statement, the energy component of New Zealand, the ambition of those people that the Prime Minister talks about would mean we would have no lights on in this room.
Right.
So
we'd be in the dark.
Before the lights go out, to answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. It was good to see the National Party. You mentioned respect for property rights. I'd just like to ask a question if your government would be willing to work with Federated farmers to improve the legislation framework that we've got, or we haven't got, to increase the respect of our rights and property.
Well, I think the answer is yes, and it's my view that we're doing that with the first measure of reforms we have in the Resource Management Act. I think there are other reforms that we're looking at. So there's a phase 2 series of reforms. I mean, I guess with property rights, it's always a bit of a contentious issue. It rolls around Parliament. It's one of those things. Property rights are never totally unfettered. So that's the challenge. Is where does that all sit? But like, as a party, we respect those, and we think people should be able to have some predictability over their property rights. And we best we can, we try and put some some obvious and clear pathway there. And I think those RMA reforms are a step in trying to achieve that.